Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Tanya Francis. Coming up tonight, Londoners battle with a day of travel chaos as over 9,000 train drivers strike as part of an ongoing dispute over pay and conditions. The Met is paving the way as the rest of the UK follows suit in new standards that all burglaries will result in a visit from the police. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, can creativity increase productivity? New research shows a more homely workspace increases well-being and job fulfilment. And 15 years after he wowed Britain's Got Talent audiences, opera singer Paul Potts will be on the show to tell us about his new music and tour. But first tonight, our top story this evening. Rail services in and out of the capital have been severely disrupted today as 9,000 train drivers took part in another large-scale strike. Well, the 24-hour walkout is because of an ongoing row over pay and conditions, which meant there were no trains on lines run by Northern, Avanti West Coast and South Eastern. Many of the big stations across the capital were incredibly quiet, with many of the drivers who were part of the ASLEF union protesting outside. We saw some at Euston Station. Well, we spoke to commuters around West London who were affected by today's strike action.
They are striking for a very fair reason, that they need to have a decent pay rise. They haven't had a proper pay rise for a long time.
Not working and striking, I mean, that impacted us, and I mean, we want to generate money for your economy, and if people aren't working, how are we going to provide funds to them, right? We could have paid for that train and they could have gotten money from that. So we had a longer ride than usual, and it would have been nice if they were working and there wasn't a strike.
Even though it can be very annoying and disruptive, I do believe that everybody has a right to strike and to try and get the best out of their possible deal that they can.
I think it's terrible that they are striking yet again, with not a thought really of people that have to go to work, etc.
Yeah, I think everyone has a right to strike. It's just, when it affects you, it's not good. And it's affecting not the real guys that they want it to affect, it's affecting us,
There we have it, and some other planned days over the next coming weeks and months to look out for when it comes to that strike action, that continued strike action. Now, Liz Truss made a speech at the Tory party conference today promising she would forge ahead with her economic plan with a focus on growth. She also vowed to get the UK through the tempest of rising energy and mortgage bills and stressed the need to stay the course when it comes to the reforms that she's putting forward, arguing that it would ultimately benefit the whole country.
We need to step up. As the last few weeks have shown, it will be difficult. Whenever there's change, there is disruption. And not everybody will be in favour of change, but everyone will benefit from the result. A growing economy and a better future.
Well, her speech was momentarily disrupted by Greenpeace protesters who have said that the Tory government are not doing what they promised to do to protect the environment and address the climate crisis when they were elected in 2019.
Nobody voted for what Liz Truss is trying to do. Nobody voted for tax cuts to benefit the rich and drive forward inequality. Nobody voted to trash nature. Nobody voted for fracking. Nobody voted to undermine workers' rights. That is what Liz Truss's government is now trying to do, and she has absolutely no public mandate to do that. I think we have a lot of support for putting that message forward, and it's our role to hold the government to account.
Now, some other news from across the capital. A young couple have appeared in court after being accused of murdering an elderly woman in northwest London and then spending £14,000 of her money. Well, 71-year-old Susan Hawkey was found dead at her home in Neasden after a neighbour was worried and alerted the police. They found her body decomposed and tied up under a duvet. Well, Chelsea Grant and Zaya Howard appeared in court today and a plea hearing has been set for December. The pair have been remanded in custody. Now, following the Met Commissioner's announcement that all burglaries in the capital would result in a visit from the police, forces in the rest of England and Wales are now following suit. It's hoped that the new set of standards will result in more offenders being prosecuted. Well, Alicia has been following this and has more. Alicia, hello. Have they given a reason for this change, an indication as to why they've implemented it?
Yeah, well, the National Police Chiefs Council put out a tweet earlier on today announcing the change and saying that the reason they wanted to do it is to give people peace of mind. Now, I think it's something that a lot of us would have assumed was happening anyway. If your home is broken into, if you have a home burglary, you would assume that the police were going to come to the scene and check what had happened. But it has been the case that this hasn't always been happening. They did also say that burglaries have actually been at an all-time low in the last decade, down 51%. But of the burglaries that have still been happening, there has been a lower number of convictions when they have taken place. So that's the thing they're really looking to change here, to get more convictions for the break-ins that are still happening. Now, this isn't new for the capital. We had this announcement a week ago from the new Met Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, saying that the change was going to come in for the capital because the crime was too serious of an intrusion for people not to get a visit from the police. But this will be a win for the new commissioner to see that a change that he's implemented has now been rolled out around the rest of the country. The National Police Chiefs Council have said that they'll work with constables to ensure that the approach is implemented as soon as is practically possible.
That was Alicia Edwards there with the latest on the announcement from the Met Commissioner. Our new figures show that more than 370,000 days off or sick days were taken for mental health reasons by Met Police officers and staff in the last 4 years. Unmesh Desai, a London Assembly member who requested these figures, is calling for better training and support and pay for officers to combat what he is calling a worrying rise. Well, the Mayor has responded to this and said there is further work being conducted by the MPS to understand the specific elements driving the increase, particularly for police and staff, and any additional steps that are required to support the staff. The London Fire Brigade are warning that people should be extra careful with portable heaters this winter and are suggesting people find other ways to heat their homes. It comes as there have already been 148 heating-related fires. The LFB have also advised that they should be kept away from bedding and furniture and not be used for drying clothing. Now, after decades of sitting derelict, Battersea Power Station is set to open to the public on the 14th of October. The Grade 2 listed building, which used to supply 1/5 of London's electricity, has been brought back to life, changing the neighbourhood and borough. Once home to powering up the capital, it's now a hub for working, living and soon to be shopping and eating. Well, as you can see from these pictures, which we got sent ahead of the doors officially opening to the public, the old site has been completely renovated and brought into the 21st century, whilst also staying true to its original architecture and design. Well, a rather beautiful design there with lots of free events happening over the next few weeks to celebrate the opening. Let's turn our attention to sport now. There's more Champions League this evening after Tottenham's 0-0 draw last night. Chelsea are in action this time around. They are at home to AC Milan. It's been a poor start for the Blues in Europe this season, with just 1 point from 2 matches so far, with head coach Graham Potter knowing that tonight's game is an important match to win.
Well, that's what we try for, definitely. I think everybody will say the same thing. Important to win your home games, important to win if you can, but we're playing against, like I said, a top opponent, so we have to play well. We have to create a good atmosphere for our supporters to get behind us. So that's the job. We are, as I said, we're looking forward to it.
Well, that game, Chelsea at home to AC Milan, kicks off at 8 p.m. this evening. Now, something else happening at Stamford Bridge Stadium, something a bit different. One fan who has raised over £180,000 for charity is going to walk 125 miles from Wolverhampton to Chelsea Stadium to raise money for dementia care this time round. Mani Singh Kang, who is nearly 50, reckons it's going to take him about 50 hours to arrive in time for Saturday's 3 o'clock kickoff between the Blues and his beloved Wolves. So he'll be setting off tomorrow. We heard from the father of three about why he's taking on the challenge.
You know, I've done the London Marathon last year. Year before that, I did a virtual London Marathon in the Yorkshire Three Peaks. The year before that, I actually cycled to Anfield for the last game of the season. So I've always been a challenge event, doing lots of different things, trying to test myself, keep fit. And this year, I didn't get London in the ballot, and I just decided to do something else. And I decided to walk, and London came up, and it was, you know, how do I challenge myself? Let's do it in just over 2 days, and it's a bit bonkers, a bit crazy. I'm starting this Thursday at 5 o'clock from Molineux, the home of Wolves, hopefully getting to Stamford Bridge, the home of Chelsea, which kicks off at 3 o'clock, hoping to get there just before 2 o'clock. Since I became volunteer ambassador for Dementia UK, we've just gone past £135,000. Just unbelievable, and I'd say 95% of that comes from the fans of the football club and the football family, and I'm really, really grateful for all their support.
Well, there we have it. Very good luck to Manny on that mammoth walk there. A look at the weather now. The rain is easing overnight for a dry morning. Around 10 degrees overnight tonight. Thursday will be a dry day with plenty of sunshine, although there will be a few patches of cloud during the afternoon. If we look ahead to Friday, it'll be another dry day with lots of sunny spells, but some patchy cloud will again likely develop into the afternoon. And Saturday, much of the same, temperatures consistently just below that 20-degree mark for the rest of the week. Now, just before the break, the most popular baby names for 2021 have been revealed for London, for here in the capital. Mohammed, Noah and Leo topped the chart for the boys' names, and Olivia, Amelia and Mia for the girls. So just a few suggestions there if you have a little one on the way. Now we are headed for a break, but up next, how having nice art hung on the walls in the workplace can boost productivity. More on that research next.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Welcome back to the show. A look at some of the national stories making headlines today. There are fresh warnings today about a surge in energy scams as the cost of living crisis continues. The Chartered Trading Standards Institute has asked people to be wary of fraudulent energy rebate text messages, rogue doorstep sellers and companies trying to sell loans at this time. Well, the Institute reported 40 million people were targeted by scammers last year and is urging people to ignore text messages and go directly to their energy companies using the contact details published on their official websites. And new research is showing that the interest rate on a typical 2-year fixed mortgage has breached 6% for the first time in 6 years. The financial information service, Moneyfacts, says that this is a level not seen since the financial crisis in November 2008. Well, mortgage rates have been going up for months, but there has been a sharp increase in response to the fallout from the mini-budget nearly 2 weeks ago, with uncertainty over future interest rates causing lenders to pull more than 1,000 deals from the market. And anyone under the age of 18 will not be able to buy fireworks from the 10th of October. The legislation, which will make it a criminal offence, has been brought in to improve public safety, well, especially as we head towards Guy Fawkes Night, when there is an increase in the number of fireworks being used. There are also plans to bring in mandatory training for people and local authorities who want to buy fireworks. Now, the Met Office are warning the public to prepare in case of unusually harsh winter weather as the effects of climate change continue to cause more extreme events. Well, their Weather Ready campaign, launched this week to equip people with information and resources that can help prevent accidents and illnesses, as well as a few tips to keep our mental health in shape this winter. Well, we spoke to the Met Office's Head of Situational Awareness, Will Lang, a little earlier.
Well, my job at the Met Office is I'm head of situational awareness, which means a number of things. It means that I look after our weather warning service. It also means that I look after the severe weather advice we give both to government, but also to the public as well. And that's where the Weather Ready campaign comes in that we're talking about today.
Yeah, and we've been warned to prepare for severe winter weather. What kind of weather are the Met Office anticipating will hit us here in London, but also more generally across the UK?
Well, firstly, it's far too early to tell exactly what weather we'll get this winter. We don't look that far ahead. But it would be fair to say, that a normal British winter, we will see a large range of weather. We'll get a bit of everything. We'll get some cold spells. We'll get wet and windy spells. We'll get some quieter periods as well. And that goes for as much as for London as it goes for the whole of the UK. So the main advice and what we're trying to talk about here today is being prepared for a bit of everything, really.
After a record hot summer, we're told of global warming. A lot of people might think that means we're going to have warmer winters. Why is that not necessarily the case? Why do we see more extremes
Well, the weather is getting more extreme, both in the UK and around the world. And we saw that, as you said, the heat wave that we had over this summer. In terms of what that means for winter weather, it means that our winter weather is probably getting wetter. It may well be getting stormier as well. And there's more energy in the system, and that translates into more extremes. So, you know, things are getting worse. So when we get a really, really windy period, it can be just that little bit much windier or similarly wetter as well. So it is getting more extreme for the UK and indeed the London area.
We're expecting cost of living, obviously, to bite very hard this winter. And the weather's bad, that's going to have a really compounding effect. Where are the biggest concerns, perhaps? You know, is it centred around maybe bills not being, you know, families avoiding turning on the heating, things like that to avoid paying bills? Is that a concern that maybe has kind of come into the thinking of this campaign?
I mean, obviously it's going to be a big thing, cost of living for absolutely everyone, really. So what we're trying to focus on with the Weather Ready campaign is picking up on the advice that, you know, anyone can do, and it doesn't really cost you money, and it's just simple steps that you can take to look after yourself, to look after your family, your property, and indeed your neighbours and your loved ones. We join up with lots of partners. So that's other government departments. It's things like the NHS. We've got Mind, the mental health charity involved. We've got the Ordnance Survey. And what we do is we gather together all of the advice and put it together in one place, which is on the Met Office website, metoffice.gov.uk. If you go and look for Weather Ready, and that's where we collate all of this advice about winter weather. And it's a whole range of things. So it's there's a whole section around the home and gardens. So it might be garden furniture, you know, making sure any trampolines you have or anything like that are tied down or cleared away for the winter. Clearing your gutters and your drains to make sure that they're not blocked. Inside the house, you might consider things like an emergency kit, so a grab bag if you have a power cut in a storm, for example. So that might include a torch or a mobile phone charger. So that's the simple steps you can take around the home and in your garden. There are other things we're focusing on in the campaign this year, one of which is checking on the vulnerable. And it's really encouraging in the survey that we did, you know, 50 to 60% of people across the UK are already thinking about checking on their vulnerable neighbours in the event of incoming severe weather. So that's the elderly, people with underlying health conditions. I think we're really good at that as a nation anyway. So we're trying to encourage that, checking on your neighbours, especially if you hear there's bad weather on the way. And another aspect, I mentioned Mind, the mental health charity. So we're flagging up the mental health risks of winter as well. It can be cold, dark, dingy, and really you've got to make the best of the good weather that we have and the daylight hours that we have as well. So again, we're recommending that people try and spend time outside, obviously when there's not bad weather around. Take the opportunity to connect with other people and maybe most importantly, keeping physically active throughout those periods as well.
Well, there we go, Will, with some recommendations of how to keep safe this winter. Now, as we look ahead to the WHO's World Mental Health Day on Monday, one institute is arguing that putting up art in the office could dramatically improve the well-being of staff. Given the economic turmoil, the productivity of London's workforce is perhaps more important than ever. Well, new research shows that productivity can be boosted by nearly 20% with art, and nearly 2/3 of 18 to 29-year-olds prefer to head into the office rather than working from home. This sort of small thing may be crucial to satisfaction levels of workers. Well, this is according to Saf Williams from Brookfield Properties, who are behind the research, and she joined me a little earlier.
It's basically telling us that people want to have not lean offices, they want enriched, culturally stimulating spaces inside their offices. So directly in their office, whether that be good interiors, artworks, and also outside any kind of wellness events, connectivity, a place that they can kind of form a community inside their office and outside of their office.
Where do you think this has come from? Do you think it perhaps has anything to do with the fact that so many of us have been working from home, where there perhaps is a little bit more art and a bit more comfort? Do you think people are now wanting to bring a bit of that into their workplace?
I think that's certainly the case. People have got, familiar with the kind of I guess, the domesticity of home and that interior and the expectation of a more comfortable office. But I think at the same time, whilst at the beginning people might have been very excited to work from home, after quite a while, they're really keen to get back to, you know, multiple screens and an office setting, but also a place that you can gather with more people. So, you know, 30, 40 people doing a brush and bubbles class after work, or have an artist talk, you know, with a drink or a conversation and a place to network. I think people are looking for more from their office experience. And I think that networking extends beyond people not just wanting to be on Zoom to do actual work, but, you know, to connect with their work colleagues and friends outside. The expectation from the office is, I think, more now.
Yeah, we were all sort of starved of that connectivity with people for such a long time. I can understand why many would want to lean back into that. Is there any sort of suggestion that art and, you know, employee engagement, employee satisfaction, how well someone might do their job, is there a link between those two?
I think there's further studies to be done on exactly how, you know, creativity and art around you increases productivity. But what we do know from the science, and particularly the work that Dr. Craig Knight did, is that animals, and humans being animals, do not do well in lean environments, so places where there's nothing around them. It doesn't stimulate them, it doesn't encourage them to work well. And that the more that there is around them, you know, a sort of culturally enriched artistic environment makes people feel happier, you know, more proud of their space, and hopefully that stimulates you know, productivity and creativity. What's really interesting as well from the statistics is that we've got 86% of people saying that they actually like, when they're in an office, when it's more culturally stimulated, that they feel there's a better delineation from the office and home, and that actually makes them feel like they have a better work-life balance. So in that sense, they feel more wellness from being at the office.
And, you know, the workplace obviously plays a role in helping with people's wellness, but, you know, where do we draw the line here between people looking after themselves and it being a responsibility of the employer, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are generally, you know, more engaged in terms of whether it's doing their meditation at home, or it's doing a run club at work in the office, or you know, doing an exhibition afterwards. The reason that Brookfield Properties worked with the School of Life on this particular report is that alongside this report and all the other programming that we do across our sites in London, we're going to be offering free workshops to all of our occupiers, tenants and the community in our buildings in London. So those courses will be everything from around parenting, what is culture, you know, how, like, getting a good work-life balance. So it's actually kind of providing other, you know, workshops and classes and interactions to kind of stimulate those ideas about wellness outside of just how art makes one feel better.
There we have it, Saf Williams with an insight there into how that research is showing that creativity can affect productivity in the workplace. You're watching London Live News with Tanya Francis. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, we'll tell you about the £1 music gig tickets for the upcoming Roundhouse Rising Music Festival as they push for accessibility at this year's event.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello and welcome back. A reminder of our top story this evening. Rail services in and out of the capital have been severely disrupted today as 9,000 train drivers took part in another large-scale strike. Well, the 24-hour walkout is because of an ongoing row over pay and conditions, which meant there were no trains on lines run by Northern, Avanti West Coast and South Eastern. Well, many of the big stations across the capital were incredibly quiet, with many of the drivers who are part of the ASLEF union protesting outside Euston Station. Well, we spoke to commuters around West London who were affected by today's strike action.
They are striking for a very fair reason, that they need to have a decent pay rise. They haven't had a proper pay rise for a long time.
Not working and striking, I mean, that impacted us, and I mean, we want to generate money for your economy, and if people aren't working, how are we going to provide funds to them, right?
Even though it can be very annoying and disruptive, I do believe that everybody has a right to strike and to try and get the best out of their possible deal that they can.
I think it's terrible that they are striking yet again with not a thought really of people that have to go to work, etc.
Yeah, I think everyone has a right to strike. It's just, when it affects you, it's not good. And it's affecting not the real guys that they want it to affect, it's affecting us,
There we have it, and some other planned days over the next coming weeks and months to look out for when it comes to that strike action, that continued strike action. Now, Liz Truss made a speech at the Tory party conference today promising she would forge ahead with her economic plan with a focus on growth. She also vowed to get the UK through the tempest of rising energy and mortgage bills and stressed the need to stay the course when it comes to the reforms that she's putting forward, arguing that it would ultimately benefit the whole country.
We need to step up. As the last few weeks have shown, it will be difficult. Whenever there's change, there is disruption. And not everybody will be in favour of change, but everyone will benefit from the result. A growing economy and a better future.
Well, her speech was momentarily disrupted by Greenpeace protesters who have said that the Tory government are not doing what they promised to do to protect the environment and address the climate crisis when they were elected in 2019.
Nobody voted for what Liz Truss is trying to do. Nobody voted for tax cuts to benefit the rich and drive forward inequality. Nobody voted to trash nature. Nobody voted for fracking. Nobody voted to undermine workers' rights. That is what Liz Truss's government is now trying to do, and she has absolutely no public mandate to do that. I think we have a lot of support for putting that message forward, and it's our role to hold the government to account.
Now, London's iconic former railway engine shed, the Roundhouse, is this week playing host to the Roundhouse Rising Music Festival. Well, the event champions emerging talent from the capital while staying true to the venue's charitable values of accessibility. This year, tickets for 18 to 30-year-olds will cost just £1, and a pioneering haptic system has been installed for people hard of hearing to be able to feel the music. Well, Paul spoke to the Roundhouse's head of music, Lucy Wood, to find out a bit more.
Rising Festival, I mean, a lot of people know us as an amazing gig venue at the Roundhouse, but some people might not also realise we're a youth charity and we work with thousands of young people every year on a number of creative projects. We have incredible studios downstairs, and Rising is really where these two things that we excel in come together. So it's a really exciting moment for us. We've been doing it since 2011. We've had kind of all sorts of exciting early career performances from people like Little Sims, Green Tea Peng, Koji Radical, Coco Oko. So every year it's a kind of a place where emerging talent kind of gets platformed and you get to see the sort of exciting, diverse, creative talent of the future. 50 years ago, you might have seen Patti Smith or The Clash performing. So Roundhouse Rising, you really might be seeing someone who will still be talking about in 50 years. The space is incredible. Anything in the Roundhouse, just, I don't know, it's like, it makes everything sort of sound and feel better just in there. It makes everything look and feel great. And, you know, there's real history. I just feel like you can kind of feel the history coming out of our brickwork when you're in there. Young trainees who work on producing Rising. We also have this year offered a £1 ticket offer for anyone who's 18 to 30, which is kind of in response to the cost of living crisis and making culture really accessible to everyone. I'm not sure other showcase events are doing that. We also have this world-class creative program for young people. So we have resident artists who are performing on the festival this week. We also have, you know, one of the trainees from last year is also our stage manager. Young people just integrated in the program.
On that note about the £1 tickets for 18 to 30-year-olds, why was that so important to organisers to sort of have that as a scheme?
At the Roundhouse, we believe that you can transform lives through creativity, and that's whether you're a creator yourself or you're a spectator. And, you know, just that experience, that transformative experience of coming together to share live music, we felt like that, particularly as a youth charity, we didn't want to exclude young people from that experience. And we were worried that, you know, with the cost of living crisis, you know, a kind of standard ticket price might not be accessible for some people in that age bracket. So, yeah, we really want to make sure that the room is full of young people who might not otherwise have an opportunity to experience it.
I've been reading about the Beat Blocks haptic system as well. Could you explain a little bit more about how that works for me?
Really, I'm very excited about this one. So an artist called Rowan James brought us these this kind of quite pioneering new technology there, like vibrating floor tiles that would enhance the kind of musical experience for any gig goer, because you can kind of feel the vibrations of the music through your feet if you stand on it, or through your body if you're in a wheelchair, say. And so it means that you just have, as well as watching and hearing music, you have these extra sensory inputs through your body. So it's really inclusive, because it means it is great for kind of deaf or sensory impaired gig goers, but it's just great for all gig goers. And the fact that we get to kind of premiere that in the Roundhouse for Rising, I feel is really in keeping with what we want to do with Rising, which is sort of showcasing what the future is going to look like. And yeah, something that's very much in line with our values at the Roundhouse.
Creating the music programme must have been really exciting for this. There's a huge variety of performers in there. How was that process of working, with the likes of Vice and Risen? Any artists you're, particularly enthralled to have booked on?
I mean, working with Vice has just been brilliant, because we've been able to totally expand the reach and the impact of what we do. And they've also, smashed it out of the park with their programme. They're co-curating the first night, which is features Talia Goddess and Pinku, who's amazing, and our one of our resident artists, India Shan, who we're really proud of, an amazing songwriter and vocalist. But also, as you mentioned, Risen are amazing. It feels like a real coup to get this incredibly cool Hackney Wick sort of rave festival in our building. And as well as that, we're giving them a platform to do something that I don't think they really get to do in their festival, which is live performances, with vocals, with instrumentation, not just DJ sets, not just sort of more electronic production. So a really great platform for us to each kind of try new things out.
Well, there you have it. And after last night's opening performance, Rising Festival resumes from Thursday until Saturday at the Roundhouse in Chalk Farm. Now, for a quick break, but in the next part of the show. It's been 15 years since Paul Potts stunned the Britain's Got Talent audiences. He joined me in the studio to talk about his new music and upcoming tour. We'll see you shortly.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather. And know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello and welcome back to the final part of the show for this evening. Now, it's been 15 years since Paul Potts took our breath away on Britain's Got Talent. And in that time, the opera singer has performed in over 45 countries and sold more than 5 million albums. Well, he's just released new music inspired by the way Italians dealt with the first lockdown and sang to each other from their balconies. He said that it was a reminder that music is not and has never been forbidden. Well, I caught up with him to hear more about the music and his upcoming tour kicking off next year. It's so nice to see you, and it's so lovely to hear your music and that incredible voice of yours. You've been very busy, and you're about to be even more busy. You've got a new album coming out, and you're off on tour. Let's start with your new music. Tell me about where you wrote it and what we can expect from this new music.
Well, basically, Musica Non Proibita came from watching people in Italy singing from their balconies in the first lockdown, and because their lockdown was far stricter than ours, and it gave me a sense that whilst many things were forbidden, music wasn't. So that's the reason why I've called the album Musica Non Proibita, and because that means music isn't forbidden. And I performed quite a lot of pieces during that year. I did a performance a day for 4 months, including Sunday full concerts, and so I sang around 220 different songs and decided that I'd record some of them, maybe 12, 16. In the end, I went into a studio just north of Cardiff, and recorded 41 tracks in the end. Loved doing it.
Incredible, and that's what we can expect from the latest album then. And I think so many of us will remember those really early scenes of lockdown, where you're right, it was sort of in Italy and in Spain that they went into lockdown first, and the joy that people had in the limited joys that we had at the time, but just singing, out of their balconies. You've always been very open about your sort of early years in life and sort of more challenging times about when you were bullied, and how music carried you through that, and how music, I'm sure, carried many people through lockdown. I wanted to know, years on, we're 15 years on since that Britain's Got Talent win, what does music mean to you now?
It means pretty much the same as it always has. I mean, the difference is that I'm very fortunate that I get to do what I love doing, and I get to do what makes me me, which for me is the very definition of what success is. Success isn't about what money you have, what kind of house you have, or what kind of car you drive. It's about doing what completes you. And if you're doing what completes you, then everything else is irrelevant. You're successful.
Now, you're celebrating, how many years is it? 15 years
15
now?
years makes me feel really old.
I mean, if you look back over the last 15 years, is it what you imagined? You know, if you were speaking to sort of young Paul about what you wanted to achieve in terms of your music career, is the sort of fame and fortune and success, is it what you imagined to be?
I never really preconceived how things would go, and I think that's really helped me along the way, because I haven't tried to think this is how it could be. I think sometimes it's not hopelessness that gives you issues. It's hope in many ways. If you have hope that has no foundation, then it doesn't show itself. You know, it doesn't show itself to be reliable. So I've always tried to take each day as it comes and try not to think too far in the future. So that means my expectation levels are different.
And if you look back, you know, when we first met you on stage in 2007, there was this sense of an unexpected voice. You know, people didn't think that this incredible voice was going to grace the stage. Was that kind of insulting back then?
No, not at all. I think that, you know, people are going to make their judgments on you based on how you look and how you appear and how you carry yourself. It's the reason why our parents always tell us to try and make the best first impression, because people will make judgments. No issue with that at all. You're always going to get that aspect, and to be honest, the unexpected side of things has helped kickstart my career, so I can hardly object to it.
Yes, and if there's any good message to any of the bullies or people who perhaps didn't expect that, is this incredible career that you've forged for yourself since. Are there things that you still want to do? Are there stages that you still want to sing on? Are there people that you still want to collaborate with that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
Well, the last time I was on London Live in this very studio actually was to promote a role that I was doing in Chiswick. I was doing Cavaradossi in Tosca, and I'd love to do Rodolfo, because it's such. I mean, Bohème is such. La Bohème is such a beautiful, very sad, but it's a very beautiful opera, and I can't watch it without crying, and I doubt I'd be able to sing it without crying either. But if there's one thing that I haven't done, is the role of Rodolfo. But overall, I just like to keep doing what I love doing. And thanks to the people that buy my CDs and buy tickets to watch me perform, I'm still doing that. And so to them, I'd say a huge, huge thank you.
Now, you are not only releasing new music, but you're going to be off on tour as well at the beginning of next year. How do you feel about going on tour? Is it something that you enjoy? I know some artists perhaps love being on tour, or you know, love the live performance aspect, or perhaps more the studio stuff. How does it work for you?
Well, I spend more than half the year touring, so but mainly abroad a lot of the time. But so it's great to be doing some shows back in the UK, and I'm looking forward to playing Pizza Express live on March the 7th, I believe it is, and looking forward to doing it. I've heard very good things to the room, and if it's good enough for Annie Lennox, it's good enough for me. That's for sure.
And so you're going to be performing here in London, but also, you know, across the UK. How does it feel, you know, coming back to London and performing here? What is it that you like most about the London audiences?
London's such an iconic city. I love walking around London. I think the traffic, for living here, I think the traffic would do my head in.
I think most people would agree with you, the traffic and the strikes at the moment.
I drove in from South London, drove in from Gatwick area through South London yesterday, and I was stupid enough to follow the sat-nav. And I used to just ignore the sat-nav, go the route I wanted to go, because you just hit more traffic. You try and avoid traffic, you hit more. But I love coming to London. It's such an iconic city. I always spend a lot of time walking around, taking lots of photographs. And
you mentioned there that you've obviously played in Chiswick. You're going to be playing at Pizza Express, which is in central London. What, you know, of all of the places that you've played at, do you prefer playing the sort of huge venues where you've got a sea of eyes, or is it more the sort of more intimate venues?
I think that each show has its own merits. I mean, I played the Royal Albert Hall several times, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to beat. But I've also played smaller venues with just a pianist, which is how we're going to be doing it. And the music's far more intimate then, and you have more freedom to interpret the music as well, because it's just a piano that's expected to follow you, not a full orchestra.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to being back on tour again in the UK. It's going to be great to see some new places.
And will it be a selection from the new album, or will you be playing some of your other music as well?
There'll be some other music, some stuff I haven't recorded yet as well, because I often use touring as a way of kind of test bed, using the audience as guinea pigs effectively by playing some newer songs that I haven't done.
To see how they react.
Yeah, to see how they react to it and see how it plays as well. And there's a huge advantage with just using a pianist, is that you've got more flexibility. You can change the set on the day if needs be, as long as the pianist knows how to play the piece, of course.
There we go, that was Paul Potts there. He'll be off on tour at the beginning of next year across the UK and performing here in London on the 7th of March. Now, a reminder of the weather now. The rain is easing overnight for a dry morning, around 10 degrees overnight tonight. Thursday will be a dry day with plenty of sunshine, although there will be a few patches of cloud during the afternoon. Friday, another dry day with lots of sunny spells, but some patchy cloud will again be likely to develop into the afternoon. And as we look ahead to the weekend, Saturday, much of the same, temperatures consistently just below that 20-degree mark for the rest of the week, so not too bad really for this time of year. We have come to the end of the show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. and we'll have news from across the capital this evening across our social media channels. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at London Live. We'll have a lovely evening and we'll see you tomorrow.